Welcome to Betrayal Stories. In today's video, my name is Clara, and what I'm about to share isn't just a story. It's a journey that began with a single shattering sound and ended with a truth that changed everything I thought I knew about love, loss, and forgiveness. It started one quiet morning, the kind of morning where even the light feels heavy. I was standing by the kitchen counter, the smell of coffee lingering in the air, when I heard it. The crash of breaking glass. Then a trembling voice. "Mom, I can't take it anymore." My heart clenched. Those words cut through the silence like a blade. I turned slowly. James stood in the doorway, my son, my heart. His face was pale, eyes red-rimmed with something that looked too deep to be just sadness. "James," I whispered, stepping closer. "What happened?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he ran a hand through his hair, a small gesture that suddenly made my chest ache. It was something his father, Mark, used to do. For a second, it felt like time folded in on itself, like I could almost see Mark standing there too. Finally, James sank into a chair, elbows resting on his knees, eyes fixed on the floor. "I tried to ignore it, Mom. I tried to move on, but I can't pretend anymore." A cold ripple ran through me. "Ignore what?" He looked up then, and for the first time in years, I saw the boy who used to fill this house with laughter. "I got a letter," he said quietly. "From Dad." My breath caught. "What?" He pulled out a folded, yellowed envelope from his jacket pocket. "I found it in the garage. It's addressed to you." My knees weakened. The garage. I had packed every inch of that place after the funeral. Boxes, tools, memories I wasn't ready to face. But I never saw any letter. "How long have you had it?" I asked, trying to steady my voice. "A week," he whispered. "I didn't know if I should give it to you. I wasn't sure you were ready." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence, steady and constant, like a heartbeat reminding us that the world hadn't stopped, even though ours had. Finally, I asked, "Why now?" He met my eyes, his voice barely holding steady. "Because I'm not ready either. But maybe this letter can help us both move forward." My hands trembled as I took it from him. The handwriting, that slanted, careful script, was unmistakable. Mark. The sight of my name written in his hand. Clara. In blue ink. Felt like hearing his voice again after years of silence. I pressed the envelope to my chest. "I can't read it right now," I whispered. James nodded. "Then, we'll read it together. Later." The word later lingered in the air long after he left the room. That entire afternoon, I couldn't focus on anything. Every corner of the house seemed to whisper his name. The dent in the wall from when he moved the couch too fast. The coffee stain near the sink he promised to clean tomorrow. Little fragments of a life frozen in time. Now, that letter sat on the table like a secret waiting to wake. As the sun dipped lower, turning the walls gold, I found myself sitting in his old chair by the window, the one he used to read in. The envelope rested in my lap. It felt heavy, alive. By evening, James appeared in the doorway again. "Do you want me to stay while you read it?" he asked softly. I nodded. "Yes." We sat side by side. My fingers tore gently through the fragile seal. Inside was a thin sheet of paper. The ink slightly faded with time. It began simply, "My dearest Clara, if you're reading this, it means I didn't have the chance to say what I should have said every day." My throat tightened. I could almost hear his voice. "I know you'll take care of James, the way you always have, but there's something I need you both to know before you decide what to do with the house." "The house?" I murmured. James leaned closer. "Keep reading. The truth is, this home was never just ours. There's something here I never told you about, something I left unfinished. You'll find it when the time is right. You'll know what I mean when you see her name." I stopped reading. "Her name?" James frowned. "Whose name?" I turned the page over, hoping for more. Nothing. The silence between us felt thick. "Is there another page?" he asked. I shook my head. "No, that's it." The letter trembled in my hands. A message from the past, and now a riddle. I lowered the paper, and under the lamplight I saw it. Faint, almost invisible on the back of the envelope. A single handwritten word. Elena, my heart skipped. Do you know anyone named Elena? I asked quietly. James hesitated. Yes, he said slowly. I think I do. That night I couldn't sleep. The name Elena echoed in my head, wrapping itself around old memories and unanswered questions. When James went to bed, I sat at the dining table, tracing the loops and lines of Mark's handwriting. For a moment I was back to when it all began, decades ago. The first note he ever left me wasn't a love letter. It was a scrap of paper tucked into a lost scarf. Hi, I think this belongs to you. Back then, I was an art teacher at the local community center. He was the man fixing the leaky roof. The air smelled of paint and sawdust and something quietly new. He'd teased me once, smiling that boyish smile I'd come to love. You shouldn't climb that ladder in heels, and you shouldn't distract women with power tools. I'd shot back. We laughed, the easy kind of laughter that builds bridges before you even realize you're crossing them. Soon, mornings weren't complete without his coffee, always in the same paper cup, always with the same words written on the sleeve. Don't forget to breathe. At the time, I didn't understand how much I'd need that reminder someday. Years passed in a blur of warmth and noise. We built a home, raised James, shared breakfasts filled with quiet joy and dinners full of stories. But love changes shape. It doesn't vanish. It hides behind to-do lists and unspoken worries. Then came the illness. The laughter faded. Conversations turned into routines. Pills, appointments, silence. And one day Mark just stopped answering my questions. Please talk to me, I'd begged once. He had smiled faintly. Some things are better left quiet. I didn't understand then. Not until now. The next morning, James appeared in the kitchen, holding a small wooden box covered in dust. I found this in the garage, he said. Inside were old Polaroids, some faded, some vivid. One made my breath catch. It was Mark, standing beside a woman with dark hair and kind eyes. On the back, written in his handwriting, Elena, 1998. She looks familiar, James murmured. I stared at the photograph, and a memory flickered like light through leaves. Years ago, at the hospital, a woman had stopped me in the hallway. Are you Clara? She had asked softly. When I said yes, she smiled sadly. He talks about you all the time. I'd assumed she was one of the nurses. But now I knew. It was her, Elena, I whispered. James exhaled. Do you think she's the reason Dad wrote that letter? I don't know, I admitted, but I think she knew something he never told us. Later that day, as sunlight streamed through the window, James called out from the garage again. Mom, come here. You need to see this. He was holding a framed watercolor painting, a house surrounded by white roses and a picket fence. My heart stopped. That's our house, I whispered. He nodded. Look, the signature. At the bottom corner, in delicate script, Elena W. She had painted this house long before we ever lived in it. Do you think Dad knew her before he bought it? James asked. I couldn't answer. I didn't have to. Deep down, I already knew. He did. Because this house wasn't just a home. It was a connection between two lives. Two promises. Two stories unfinished. The doorbell rang suddenly, pulling me from my thoughts. James went to answer it. A woman's voice drifted in. Warm, careful, familiar. I'm sorry to come unannounced. I'm looking for Clara Bennett. My heart froze. When I stepped into the hall, time seemed to stop. Elena, I whispered. She looked older now, but her eyes, they were the same. Gentle. Sad. You remember me? She said softly. James stood behind her, speechless. Yes, I said. I remember. She smiled faintly. Then we should talk. Inside, her eyes fell immediately on the painting resting on the table. You found it? She murmured. You painted it, I said quietly. She nodded. A long time ago. Mark told me he'd keep it safe. You knew my father? James asked. Yes, she replied, her gaze drifting to the floor. Before he married your mother. The room fell silent. My voice barely rose above a whisper. "What was he to you?" She hesitated. "A friend," she said at last. At least that's what I called him when people asked. But it was more complicated than that. She told us how she'd met Mark years earlier, when she was painting houses around town after her divorce. "One day he saw my work," she said, "and asked me to paint this place. He said it felt like home, even though he didn't own it yet. That was before he met you," she added softly. I felt the words settle in my chest like a weight. "Why are you here now?" I asked. She exhaled. "Because I got a letter too." James's eyes widened. "From Dad?" She nodded, pulling a yellowed envelope from her bag. "It arrived last week. It said that if I ever saw his family again, I should give this to you." She handed it to me. The writing was unmistakable. Elena's voice trembled. "He told me not to deliver it until it felt like the right time. Last night, I dreamed of this house, and of both of you." I stared at her. "Why did he trust you with this?" Her eyes glistened. "Because he said you'd believe me when the time came." The silence that followed was heavy, but not cruel. It was the silence of two lives finally intersecting again.